Welcome to BlackUSA.News Morning Show. I'm your host, William Honolulu Jr. Join us as we explore the news and opinions that impact our community. We break down how the major stories have a very personal, local, and racial impact. No topic is off limits, but even if the conversation gets rough, we're always going to keep it real.
Greetings and salutations, all my people out there in internet land. My name is William Honolulu Jr., and I have the privilege and honor of serving as the host of the Black USA News Morning Show. Welcome to Titillating Tuesday. Today, my co-host is going to join us in just a second. We're going to keep you titillated, and today's topic is negotiating and communicating sex and sexual activity. Some of us don't necessarily have some very pleasant sexual experiences in our repertoire. And some of those experiences come because we didn't know how to communicate what we wanted or understand what the other person wanted, or honestly, even understand what we wanted. So we're going to talk about a lot of that today. So if you, this might get NSFW. I learned what that meant. It says not safe for work. But hell, how many of these shows really are safe for work? So that's okay. So if you listening, you know what you're getting into, but I'm letting you know you about to be titillated. Show notes. See. And the funny part is that they gave me more show notes this time than normally, because they were like, okay, we saw what happened the last time. It was Titillating Tuesday and you was real titillated. You still got to remember this is a show, not just a private conversation with your friends. And I'm like, but it's so cool. I love my friends. And they're like, dude, but you do a show. Just call her if you want to do that. And I was like, well, I do call her. And they were like, yeah, but that's not part of the show. You should like, it's like, but we have great conversation. And so it got back and forth. But so anyway, they gave me show notes. So I have to stay focused and do host duties until it's time to transition to the wonderful titillating conversations. So thank you for joining us today. As I told you all yesterday, we're going to be talking a lot about Breadcoin over the next few months because we recognize how important the issue of hunger is to the Black community. We talk about these things like education and people economic development, but I know as a grown man, if I haven't eaten breakfast or if I'm hungry, it's difficult for me to focus in a meeting. And I've been focusing in meetings for 30, 40 years. So how do we really expect a young person, a child, to really be able to focus on their education? Or how do we get parents to focus on economic development when their kids are hungry? That is not a tenable situation for anybody. And so we are very happy to partner with Breadcoin. And what they do is they take donations, turn them into coins, and those coins feed people with dignity. When people get Breadcoin, the coins that they use, and I think I got some pictures of them. Oh, yeah, here you go. When people use these coins, they can walk into a restaurant, a participating restaurant. They can use them, and nobody knows whether they got them as an incentive, a volunteer, or whether they're living in poverty or what. They don't know why they have them. So guess what? They can go into these restaurants, they can sit down, and they can enjoy their meal without the stigma of poverty. It's a really great thing. And so we are so happy to partner with them. And there are a number of ways that you can also partner with Breadcoin. Let's see, actually just hit up their website, breadcoin.org. They're a wonderful nonprofit organization and have partners all over the DC metropolitan area in Northern Virginia and also in Baltimore. We also, like I said, we want to highlight those businesses that are supporting Breadcoin and really trying to address issues around hunger. And today is Terra Cafe. Big shout out to Terra Cafe, Terrence and them over there. Terra Cafe is located in Baltimore, Maryland. They have some amazing fish. Like their fried fish is phenomenal. And I know y'all like, oh, how do you eat everywhere? I've been here for a long time and I appreciate some good food. You can't get diabetes just by, well, no, you can't get diabetes sitting. I didn't get diabetes just by sitting around the house and waiting for stuff. I went out and found food. Okay, that might not be something that's not a flex. Okay, that's probably gonna end up a show note. It's because in my head it was like, yeah, I eat places, and I was like, well, no, that's probably not something I should be proud of. Huh. That didn't feel so good. Oh, show notes. So the other thing about Breadcoin is that they also have opportunities for you to address hunger and places where there are food starvation zones and things like that. They have these opportunities. So what they can do is that if you contact them, they can coordinate with their vendors to come and have an open table in your neighborhood. And it's not a, hey, people come in and get food to go, head out. It's like, no, if you come and get food, you sit down. You have an opportunity to break bread with your neighbors and get to know Breadcoin, get to know the vendors, and get to know each other. Because one of the things, we also encourage you to invite community leaders and politicians, because what we have realized is that a lot of times they make decisions because they don't even know us. They know the data about us. They know what they've read. They know what the consultants say. They know what the pundits say. They know what the academics say, but they don't know us. So when they're sitting in rooms making decisions for us, sometimes those decisions don't reflect our needs. So always happy to highlight organizations like Breadcoin, and big shout out to Terra Cafe. Also, big ups to the super producer Kyle Crazy Horse Morgan and Brandy Raymar for always holding me down. This is why I got show notes, y'all. This is why the show is not wilder than it is, because I got people who hold me down and remind me, like, hey, remember, this is your job, so you might want to act like you at work. So, but today is a special day because the rules around work get real flexible, because I get to be joined by my co-host today, Miss Stacy. Come on, y'all, say hello to Stacy. Where's the button? Okay, there you go.
Hey.
Yes, hey, baby, how you doing?
Beautiful people.
How you doing today?
I'm good. Thank you for having me back.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you are titillating Tuesdays, so we're gonna keep it titillating. So today we're gonna talk a little bit about, well, actually not a little bit. Let me not pretend. It's not nothing little about what we're gonna do today.
Nope.
Today we're gonna talk about how people can communicate and negotiate their sexual activity. I have heard a ridiculous number of stories about people, especially as we're looking at, we've been talking a lot about how to get our kids prepared for college and stuff like that. I've heard some ridiculous stories about people's first college experiences. One of my friends said that the guy was trying to perform oral sex on her, had her stand on top of the desk, and she fell over, and it was so. And she was like, and she said it wasn't until afterwards she actually understood what he was trying to do in the first place. He was like, "Come on, stand on it. Why are we doing this?" And she was like, well, okay, okay, I guess I'll stand here," because she had this was her first set of experiences.
Exactly.
Had no frame of reference,
none,
and was like, okay, if you say this is what we need to do to get it done, I guess I will stand on the
right. Just so homie can say, "Yo, I had a stand on his table," and she like, "All right, but I'm about to break my neck."
Right. Okay, so you know what? Show note. I apologize. Show note. We got a show note. They don't necessarily know you or remember you, and I should give you an opportunity to make sure they understand the credentials. I'm so glad I got these notes. Oh my God, we would have been like 30 minutes in. I'd be like, oh yeah, make sure you tell them who you are.
Who I am. Okay. I'm a former disease intervention specialist for the Baltimore City Health Department's STD program. So that means when we get reports of communicable, reportable infections, namely gonorrhea, chlamydia, HIV, and syphilis, I was the one that went out, notified the person that they were infected or suspected of being infected, interviewed them, and went out for their partners and started the situation all over again. I was also responsible for educating and training not only patients, but also care providers in STDs. And through that, I developed my own sexual education program because the situation wasn't getting any better. And I found that there was a severe gap in the education that our young adults and older adults needed to know about sex and sexual health.
About it. We're gonna talk because it's titillating. Yeah, talk about it titillating.
Now, some of y'all need a refresher course, is all I'm saying.
Not even a refresher. No, but here's the thing. Real talk. Some of us need the course for the first time, because the reality is most of us have stumbled through our sexual education as an on-the-job experience. It is like, and if you have not necessarily had the great
Oh my gosh, William, I think I lost you. I don't know how I lost you, but I think I lost you. Can you hear me? Nope, you stopped again.
My bad.
There you go.
I apologize. I had to go away. I got too excited. I'm assuming that that my signal provider realized I needed to calm down. It's like, no. You know what I bet?
I
Now that I
wanted to
think
make sure
about
it
it,
wasn't me. I was like, did I do
no,
something?
but you know what? I think you know what it probably is. I bet you like either Horse or Brandy out there with a button, and they was like, oh no, calm it down. I do not need to be censored. I shall not be censored. Okay. All right, sorry. Okay.
That's hilarious because your face is stopped, but I hear your voice. So at least I can hear your voice.
Oh, that is weird. They are really fucking with me today. Okay, well, you know what? I'm gonna still go with my voice. So you know what? If you can't see me, you just keep it going
Yes, I
because
will.
that's how we keep it titillating. Okay, so you used to go when you would get reports of individuals who tested positive for gonorrhea, syphilis, HIV, and those things. You would go and talk to them, and it wasn't just like, oh, hey, so funny. Kyla's like, it wasn't me. All right, so we're gonna have to talk to Brandy and find out why I keep going out. That's the thing we're gonna have to do as a team. So I appreciate. See, and again, this is how you know your team watches you. They're like, no, don't even try to blame it on me because I know what's gonna happen at the meeting. Don't do that. It's like, okay, sorry.
Yeah, no, the on paper the job is, you go and you look for people who have sexually transmitted infections and you interview them.
Mm-hmm.
But in doing so, you learn a whole lot more.
Right.
You learn about where they met their partner, how they met their partner, how long they've been with their partner. And
Mm-hmm.
in the conversation, you kind of pick up the criteria they had for choosing that partner,
Mm.
and I'm like, hmm, okay. And in some of the situations, we had a few long-term relationships,
Mm-hmm.
um, some non-traditional relationships.
Mm-hmm.
And then we had those people who put more thought into choosing their Jordans than they did sex partner. And it was those
Mm.
people that I needed to to really talk to.
Right.
Um, because you need to put some thought into it. And then as I kept getting these cases and
Uh-huh.
talking to people, I realized that there are a whole bunch of things that shaped how they chose their partner. It could have
Mm-hmm.
been TV,
Mm-hmm.
what was hot. Um, it could have been their culture. The health department may be in Baltimore City, but I got a whole diverse culture. I got people that came from West Virginia and ended up in my Baltimore City clinic for a checkup. And I'm like, how did you cross like 21 counties to get here? To here, because Baltimore City will test anybody.
Mm-hmm.
They don't even care where you live. We'll test anybody. And I'm like, but you literally cross state lines 44 counties later. How did you get here?
But some of that has to go with the stigma associated, like this whole
Exactly.
idea
But you
that,
see what I'm saying?
yeah,
Exactly.
yeah,
So you
yeah.
got social cultural context. I have people from every religion
Mm-hmm.
slide through. And all of those things shape how we choose a partner.
Mm-hmm.
And then when we choose that partner, what we say to that partner to get them drawers dropped,
Right.
right? All of that shapes it.
Absolutely.
Um, and it's very interesting to see that. And so I had to find a way to talk to them about, okay, so you're gonna have to negotiate how you have sex. Did you know that this person had like 4 other sex partners besides you? You didn't. Did you ask?
Mm.
You just assumed you were the only one. That's sweet. But you didn't ask. You know what I mean?
Oh, Kyle is giving you a big up on your shirt. Shout out where you get your gear from because everybody looking for some.
Exclusive Touch. My soror in Ohio and her husband, who's also frat, have an online boutique called Exclusive Touch, and she is the creator of the shirt.
All right, exclusive touch out in Ohio. So make sure you all hit them up because anytime we find some good people doing some great things, we're gonna make sure we shout them out. Okay.
Absolutely.
So you got this whole situation where you are talking to these people. They are clearly demonstrating that they have not given much thought to their sexual health. Now, and I think some of that is I think some of it is a larger social context because we don't necessarily teach people. We teach people about the romance and the dating and this, and we kind of leave discussions about sex to the boys' locker room
Or the
for
TV,
instruction.
or the Harlequin romance novels. You see how old I am.
Okay, so wait. Let me tell you. I'm glad you brought those up because now we can make it about me. When I was like during my formative years, we didn't have summer camps back then, and we lived in the DC where they were using crack and first started killing people for random stuff. So like it was brand new, the random killing thing. That was so new. And my mother was like, "Oh, we don't go places that doesn't have God at the forefront." So there was a lot of places I didn't go. And one summer, I read probably between 20 and 30 Harlequin romances. Do you know, I real talk, part of my therapy is still deprogramming from the toxic stuff I learned there. And some of it guided my expectations of sex and sexuality.
Exactly.
I always thought it was, we don't talk about sex, it just happens. I see you and stare longingly into your eyes, and as your breasts heave with the hunger for my passionate manhood, you move forward. And I'm like, okay, we don't have to talk about nothing. Once things start happening, then you just know what to do. Once you move in for the kiss, everything else, just your body will know what to do. It's right.
Exactly.
It's natural. When it's right, you just know. And the love and all that bullshit I gotta find. Yes, I did. And I own that find.
You got bamboozled, honey. You got led astray.
I need to stop before somebody presses that button again, and I can't talk to you. So I'm gonna calm down and give it to you. I apologize. But real talk, this is some stuff I literally am still going through therapy through. And one of the issues, I didn't realize how dysfunctional my view of sex, sexuality, and all of those things were. I had a cross between lots of porn watching, some Christianity, and then Harlequin romance. Do you know how crazy it is?
Because as parents, you don't want to think about your kids having sex. You don't want to think about the things that come with it, because one of the things that helped me as I was trying to investigate people and interview them about their sex lives is my one guiding principle. People will lie on their mama before they tell the truth about their sex life.
Ooh.
Okay. Because sex is personal.
Well,
I don't care what you think about how I dress, but do I have that good gushy? Don't tell people I don't. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? It's personal. It's very, very, very deep rooted, especially in our culture. So, as parents, you don't want to think about your kids having that moment. And so so most people do not talk to their kids about what they should expect, what they may want out of it, because you don't want to have that conversation. I had it with mine though, because you're not going to go to campus and then tell people you my son. He was sitting there like this. He was like 17. I knew he was going to head to Morgan State University, go Bears, soon. And I'm like, look, Poochie is going to fall like manna from heaven on that campus. So I'm going to need you. And we're going to have a talk. And so he was just sitting there like,
why are you saying these things to me?
It's like, can it please stop? And I'm like, no. So let's talk about what an orgasm is and how you should. I said, and first, let's talk about how you approach women. I just need to make sure. I said, I know you are a good young man, but that's what I see. I need to hear these things. I need to hear it from your mouth. And so we had to have some really, we had to have some conversations, because if you never hear it from another adult, you should hear it from me. And then you can make a decision as to how what I say fits into your life, because that's what we all do, right?
Right.
Everything our parents do is not everything is not applicable to who we are as a person. It may not be, but he had to at least hear from me. And so I never wanted my kid to say, well, my parents never told me.
Right.
Oh, nope. Not only did I tell you, I showed you with pictures. Hello. So no. Just in case you were a visual learner, here's the cooch. Yeah, no, we're not doing that.
This is what it looks like. So I don't know if people heard the story you told last time about having to have conversations with people about, like, did you notice discharge? Like, oh, I don't look at that because and not knowing enough about the human body. I was telling somebody about it. It was green, but he said that was just pre-cum, and it was like, no, honey, it's not green though.
No, nothing green should shoot out of that, sweetheart. No, this is not Taste the Rainbow. What are you doing? Don't put your mouth on that. That's not the same. Can I tell you? I was like, can I tell you what kind of freak show you have in the back of your throat right now? Because, okay, fine. But all of that is part and parcel as to how that particular patient did not have the right conversations. And and to her, in her defense, she was young. And that's what goes on when you're young, right? Because you don't know. You don't know what you don't know.
If nobody's telling you, how you know?
And you don't, and not only that, depending on who the patient is, she may be in an area where she is, there's a discrepancy between the number of women and the number of men.
Yes.
Men have a lot of choices sometimes, depending on
where they are.
And so he's like, well, if you don't give it to me, somebody else will. And then
market forces. Yeah. No, that's a legitimate thing. And one of the reasons I think that there are people who tend not to negotiate, because if you're in a very open market, what negotiating power do you have? Supply and demand. Exactly. If I can go any place else to get it, you're gonna have to come with a sweeter offer than just, hey, I got it. Like, here's some cooch. It's like, oh no, I could get cooch anywhere. What else you got with cooch?
Exactly. Like, for your first example, he could have been like, so you gonna get up on this table, split your legs so I can get that? She's like, no, it sounds dangerous. Well, I can get someone who can. You know what I mean? And so you have, in addition to knowing what questions you have to ask, you also have to know yourself. And not and this is both for men and women. You have to know yourself and where you are and kind of what you want. And it's really difficult for a younger person to figure out, because you haven't been here long enough and to know yourself. It's, to know what you want. You just know these hormones are raging. You need to do something with them.
I gotta get this up off me.
Gotta get this off. I gotta take the edge off somehow. I'll think about it later.
But honestly, a lot of us approach sex, especially those who may have started earlier. We approach sex kind of like a addict. It's like, I've been and you can tell who it is. You ready? You can tell who it is by how surprised they are by the length of time that people haven't had sex. So you can tell who you're talking to, because you got some people who'll be like, I haven't had sex in 3 months. Whoa, like, what the hell? Yep, that's one you talking to. Now, I had a friend. Now, I don't know. There's got to be a lot of people who, in my mind, are impressed with this. Well, not impressed, but impressed or concerned. She was like, yeah, I haven't had sex in 10 years. I said, what happened? She was like, she said, and part of it was this market issue. She's like, the stuff that people wanted from me and, stuff I wanted from them, there was nobody to provide it. So it was just like, it's easier not to have sex or than to deal with all of the costs associated.
Exactly. And it's not a bad thing to wait for what it is that you want out of it, because especially for women, sometimes as the mind and the feeling goes, the body will follow. And I know I'm not the only one who, was in the middle of something and stuff dried up like the Sahara. And I'm like, yep. My mind was like, why are we doing this? My body was like, right. And I was like, this ain't gonna work. This is not going to work. I should have listened to my mind and to my emotions, but no, I went forward and my body was like, But Sahara.
But here's the other thing. It is so there is a point that most of us call it, well, I've heard it called the post-nut clarity. where it's like up until that point, like all of us, like, I've been there where things make sense. It's like, yeah, I know she get on my nerves and we shouldn't be messing around, but I do miss her. And then you start forgetting the reasons why you didn't. And then it's like, yeah, I should just call and check and see how she doing. And as soon as you're like, oh my God, now I remember. Yeah, shit, she's talking. Okay, yep, I remember this now. I remember this. Well, let me say that used to happen in my life when I was younger. As I have matured and become more selective, I no longer have to worry about those things. Just want to
Well,
put that
because
out
you
there.
matured. For our younger people, that ability has not been learned yet.
Mhm.
And I will go out on a limb. Some of y'all older people don't listen to that.
Amens, amens,
Don't take that
amens.
lesson too tough either. However, it is it has been studied in a lot of research in sexual health, in how our environment shapes what we think about sex and how comfortable we are
Hmm.
talking to our partner, whether that be, heterosexual, homosexual, talking to our partner about it. Um, there's a lot of documented information for our LGBT family about the stress and stressors they go through when it comes to negotiating sex.
Mhm.
I remember in the health department where the HIV rates were particularly high one year among our African American LGBT, and they're still really high among our
Yeah,
African
yeah.
American gay men. But this particular year, it was just like ridiculous. We were getting
Mhm.
cases every day. We were like, "What is going on?" And every time we interviewed, and the good stuff comes in that interview. I could tell what your body's doing, but the good stuff, the things that
Will
happened
help us.
internally that led to what happened to your body,
Mhm.
that's the good stuff. And every time I spoke with them, I was like, "Did you wear a condom?" No, no, I didn't wear a condom. Is there a reason why you didn't wear a condom? Um, it's just we can't. What do you mean you can't? And I found out that it was an expectation and a sign of trust to not use a condom. And I
Yep.
was like, but okay, so you gave him this trust. Did you take a test before you gave him this trust? No, because I trusted him. How is that working out for you?
What did they say? Trust but verify.
That verify thing wasn't a part of it. The sign
Right.
of trust is to, and this was just from the interviews that I had, and I went and did some research, and I found that it was a thing at the time.
Mhm.
And I was like, okay, so these are our gay men. How was that working for our heterosexual girls? And for the girls, it was just they just didn't have what they needed. What they didn't have what they needed to be equipped with to have that conversation with the boys.
Mhm.
Even to this day, when I do my sex ed classes, sometimes I have to separate them. Usually,
Mhm.
my
Mhm.
classes have both sexes in them, especially when it comes to the activity parts. But at a certain point, I let my son take the boys, and
Mhm.
then I take the girls. And I was like, okay, they ain't in here. Let's talk. You know,
Right.
because there's
Because
just certain things you cannot vocalize
Mhm.
um, when you're a certain age to the opposite sex. And so part of my job is to help give you the tools so you can do that.
Right. Right. So one of the things that you said a lot, and I wanted to give you a shout out because you mentioned that in the conversations that you've had with your son and getting him prepared for his sexual experiences, because that's one of the things I think a lot of parents don't want to come to terms with. There will be sexual experiences. It just will happen. Um, you said that you told him and explained to him about the orgasm. And knowing you, I know it was both the physical, psychological, social, and emotional context of it all. And
Yeah.
the real talk is that I have met women and men, fewer men, but mostly women in their 30s and 40s who have not experienced an orgasm, who have not experienced they for me, it's been wild. Actually, watch this. When I was working in the school system, one of my colleagues told me a story because these girls were talking about how they bad and how they get it and da 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 da. and the teacher's like, you need to talk to somebody because you're probably not even having an orgasm. She said, yeah, I had an orgasm. She called her boyfriend and put him on speakerphone to verify that she had an orgasm.
And this is why I have so much work to do. Who raised you? Never mind. I can already tell.
But that's what they're dealing with. That is the level of understanding of their own body. So how about this? How do we start having the conversations with people, especially as parents talking to youth? Hell, how about this? How will you have a conversation with each other outside of that good girlfriend, or the best way to get over one lover is under another one, blah blah blah. Mm-hmm. How do we create a community amongst ourselves where we can actually just have these conversations, even outside of having them with the opposite sex? How do we develop a community amongst ourselves and our peers so that we can get good information and really have meaningful conversations and support each other?
You know what? If I could easily answer that, I would have a whole department to myself in the health department, and we would be addressing this. When I tell you that there's still various thoughts on the matter about not even just negotiating sex period, and it has to do with our city, our various cultures, and then our various religions that attach to all of that. And it is it's a very interesting problem that we're having and all of it has the same consequence. We have over 19 million cases, millions of cases of STDs. Our 12 to 24-year-olds are taking the brunt of chlamydia. Of those 12 to 24-year-olds, my Black girls are taking it on the chin. In the state of Maryland, my 20 to 24-year-olds are taking the helm of gonorrhea and chlamydia. Baltimore City, of course, has the highest rates. And of course, my African Americans are the tops in all those. And gonorrhea is just terrible because the bug changes. And so there's problems, there's layers on this problem. And because you don't want to address the foundation,
right,
the rest is just, it just blows up and gets worse. We have to have a change of culture. My grandmother, my mother's mother, said they used to discuss this type of thing.
They didn't?
However, my father's mother read all 3 volumes of 50 Shades of Grey. What? And I didn't. I said, Grandma, how you know that book? She's like, I think I'm going to send it to your aunt. My aunt was 82. She says, we're going to discuss it. Why, Grandma? She was not ashamed to have that conversation with us.
See, can you do page 57? Excuse me, sir. Can you do page 57? Okay.
No lie. And I knew that was a change in her behavior. My one grandmother was very much able to adapt to the times, which is why all the grandkids just gravitated to her because we could tell her anything.
Right.
And she actually got upset when one of my cousins, she's bi, but didn't tell her first. She was like, why didn't you tell me? I was like, Grandma, she didn't want it to. She wanted to.
Tell me, Grandma. Let me know. Let me tell you what I do on the weekends.
She was like, I wasn't disappointed. I wasn't disappointed at all. I'm just upset you didn't tell me first. I was like, okay, you know what I mean? She was that type of grandma. She was the grandma that called me and asked about a butt plug while I was in the middle of the store, and I had her on speakerphone. And she was like, Stacey, can you tell me about this butt plug? And people around me busting out laughing. I was like, yo, Grandma, she was that type of grandmother. And I recognized that she made a concerted effort to change from how she was probably raised to being an open ear and an aid for her grandkids who were living in a different era, and things were, surrounding sex and relationships were different.
Right.
So if she could do that, and my grandmother was in her 80s, if she could make that slight turn, I mean, it's not like we're going to go to Grandma with, Pornhub up on the app or anything like that. But if she can make that slight turn in order to have certain conversations, I don't see why more of us cannot.
Well, let me tell you why more of us cannot, because I'm glad you brought it up. More of us cannot because we have been indoctrinated and you're looking at sex as a commodity. Again, because we got raised on Harlequin romance, Shakespeare. Think about the images that we have for romance and relationships. Most of them are toxic. Like I was an adult before I realized that Romeo and Juliet was not like relationship goals. To love so much someone so much that you're willing to kill yourself because Harlequin romance novels. Oh, every song. I can't live without you, can't breathe without you, can't do it all.
You have
Like
lost
it,
it.
but you see what I'm saying? Like that. That was everything, and all of the music, all of the poems, the things that used to get you moved so much were all of these obsessive things. And especially once I got you, we would have all of the sex, all of the time, in all of the ways. Okay, maybe not everyone. Maybe in retrospect, this is probably one of those times I wish this was a pre-recorded show. Go ahead. Stacey.
You know what? I will say that because of what I do, it tends to be easier for me to have that conversation with with the men I've had relationships with.
Mhm.
And so when I pop off with a question, they're like, "You just come right out and."
You just ask. You're just gonna ask that, huh? Just ask
I
that.
said, "Well, yeah, but just come out and ask."
Oh, we don't have to
I
work
was
up
like,
to it. We don't have to use euphemisms. You just gonna say the words. Just gonna do that,
"Yeah."
huh?
I was like, "So, I was like, so do you like spanking?" And he's like, "I mean, I can, I was like, "Have you ever done it?" I just need to know these things. And so it tends to be easier for me to have that conversation because I want to know and I don't care. And if I gotta have sex with you, we're gonna need to discuss some
Oh,
things.
yo, no,
So
you didn't say if I gotta have sex with you, yo, babe.
I'm just saying,
Consent is a thing.
if that's what's happening,
Hey, you know what? You brought up something. So here, there are a couple of things that I've come across in the last few weeks that I think Titillating Tuesdays is an appropriate place to bring up. Two scenarios. One, a friend of mine called me and she was like, I need to talk to you because for a lot of my friends, I am the judgment-free space where they can come and share things that may otherwise not be received well.
right?
So she was talking to this guy, and this is before they were becoming intimate. And so she has let's have all of this conversation before anything pops off while we're in the dating phase, which is wonderful. One of the things is they were talking about their kind of sexual fetishes and things like that. He said that he was interested in pegging. And so, for those of you all who don't know, pegging is when a man, well, I guess anybody likes to have things inserted anally. And so she was like, is he gay? And I was like, whoa, wait, okay, all right. So how do we make a jump? Because again, some of these stigmas and things like that, like if a man likes something in his butt, he must be gay, has to be gay, da da da. And so, and I was like, so did you ask him? She said, yes, I did. I said, but what did he say? She said, no. And she said, I said, did you ask him, has he ever had experience with a man? She was like, no. And I was like, okay, so if he said that, she's like, but what if he's lying? I said, let's make sure I understand. You are comfortable believing that he wants you to shove something in his anus, but somehow you have to draw the line of believing that he has not had a man put something in his anus. She's like, oh, wow. And then we talked about it a little bit more. And I was like, you've told me before that you wanted in the past guys to do this. And so this guy's like, she was like, yeah, but he asked for it. And I was like, this is again a story in your head about you want this to happen, but you want a Harlequin romance scene where this macho man has loves you and into you so much that he surrenders his anus to you and lets you take it, and the story in your head as opposed to he likes it, so that must be gay. And some of these, and I think that's kind of emblematic of some of these stereotypes that we have that make having conversations difficult. Because one of the things that she said that he said to her after the conversation, he called her back and said, thank you for actually talking to me about it and not just hanging up. He says, because when I've told other women about that, that kind of ended our relationship.
I'm sure it did.
And so, and as you mentioned, asking people about pegging, like, so what about those people who have these types of things that may be considered fetishes or social deviance or sexual deviancies and things like that? How do you have, hell, it's difficult enough to have the I just want to do missionary conversation and I just met you to, hey, could you put butt plugs or like, could you strangle me and safe words and stuff like that? How the hell do you start that?
Yeah. So some of those conversations are going to have to come, they don't come right in the beginning of your relationship.
Okay.
And to be clear, everyone's sexual predilections are like on this continuum, from absolutely boring vanilla to it's not about me. So absolutely, missionary, only have sex just to procreate, that extreme, vanilla, all the way to swing from the chandelier. Let's get it.
And wait, and who's next? Yeah, that
Yeah,
type of life.
sexual and with the wide variety of sexual fetishes.
All the way in
Everyone,
between.
just like skin tones and everything else, everything is on this wide continuum, right?
Mm-hmm.
And people usually fall somewhere, it's just like the bell curve. Most people fall somewhere in the middle. And that's fine. And just like, even if you were I only have sex to procreate, weirdos, people, then even if you were that, you wouldn't say that at the onset. You would get to know the person before you would reveal that kind of thing. Because as I said before, sex is extremely personal.
Right.
It is that one part of our spirit being that in this country we don't want to recognize until your drawers are practically down. So
right. Well, no, until you get post-nut clarity. Let's not even pretend, because most people, they're going to keep going until they bust off. And it's like, and then once it depends on if you do the multiple thing, but once you finish your final bust off, it's kind of like, why did I do this again?
It's those type of conversations, and you should have them. But chances are, if you do your due diligence with the relationship and you're getting closer to the person, you kind of know whether they can fly with certain things or not. But you still have to have
Ask
that
the question.
conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. Ask the
Yeah.
question. So, and
like when
again,
I ask us, like, do you like spanking? Because
but you can also, one of the things about asking direct questions is that sometimes people don't even recognize their own hypocrisy or their own double standards.
Exactly.
And so you may say, and the other part is that people's preferences and predilections evolve over time.
Exactly.
That I would say the 17-year-old me would be incredibly surprised, but he wouldn't. He was, anyway, separate issue. I have a unique set of circumstances, so never mind. But most people, as they continue to mature, their tastes change and evolve and stuff like that. And so that's one of the things that I've seen with long-term couples is that as one may be more desiring more to experiment, and another one is like, no, I like what we do. We're good here. And those things, how do you negotiate those types of conversations, especially in the context of the market we were talking about earlier? Because even if we are, let's not pretend, especially in a lot of urban areas and there's a lot of Black communities, let's not pretend that the proportion to eligible men, whatever eligible may mean, and Black women is disproportionately in favor for the eligible men, which means that even if you and I are in a committed relationship, all the Facebook, Instagram, all of this and all of that, I can still have more sex because there is the market, the demand is so low. I mean, the supply is so low.
Okay, and so this is just a personal. You have to be okay with the no. If you cannot. I think it's a disservice if you just give in to if you withhold your wants and needs in a relationship. I think it's a disservice to you. It's a disservice to your partner,
right?
Because they never know the real you, and they never know what you really want. And how can they ever attain it if you never tell them? or at
Well,
least,
hell, you should
attempt to attain.
figure it out yourself too. Like I know
If you
yeah.
never have those conversations. And if you have a conversation and you're like, this will not meet my needs, you can either do one of two things. You can squelch yourself, just
I'll suck it up.
suck it up, and chances are be unfulfilled and unhappy,
Yes.
looking for a way out.
Yes.
Or you can just be like, you know what, this is not going to work for me, and be okay with that. Seeking, your something that does fit for you elsewhere. And that's where you have the issue, because I have a lot of women being like, no, I can't do that. I'm not going to be alone. So I'm just going to suck it up. I'm going to just go with it. And then they end up being unhappy and unfulfilled. And shoot, depending on the partner, may lose the relationship anyway. There are plenty of times when I've been like, nah, I'm good. This is not for me. You are not for me. And it's okay. We can still be friends, but you are not for me.
Absolutely.
You're not for this girl anyway.
Yeah.
So, but I think and you have to be okay with that. But you have to know yourself and be strong enough in yourself to make that decision. And I personally feel that it's easier the older you get, because they're like, I don't care.
Well, and
but it's a little difficult if you're younger.
Well, I think the older isn't just because you don't care. It's the reason you don't care is because now you have a different set of values. Before, you thought it was going to be I don't know how many times you were the one. I have never felt this way before, and legitimately have never felt this way before. And we have soul bonded. I understand your spiritual soul, and a year later, it's like, oh, why are you here? And so some of it is that we have been socialized and we change. We are
exactly.
not.
I'm not who I was when I was 18. When I was 18, I couldn't. I hit college campus at Florida State University, and that was over. I was away from my father because I was raised by my dad.
Yeah.
I was raised by my father. So it was over. I hit that campus and I was like, I am several states away. He ain't driving up.
Freedom.
But I'm not the same person that I was at 18. And so now I can tell someone with absolute certainty, and probably pictures, as I said, of what it is that I like and I want. And I would hope that my partner would do the same for me. So, because you need to be compatible. What did my grandmother say? Evenly yoked. Yeah. It's not just the spiritual, it's not just because, Bible or finances or anything else. It's also sexual. And so, shoot, if you're having problems having that conversation and negotiating that thing, find someone who does not have that type of filter, and take some cues.
Role play with some of your friends, actually, because I know there's some times with my friends, and normally this is less on the sexual side and more on the relationship side, where it's like, well, I want to tell him this, and I was like, well, what if he says this? And we role play the whole thing through, and it's normally like, well, I don't feel that he is. One of them, and we were just recently talking about, she doesn't feel that her boyfriend was spending enough time with her, and so we went back and forth with it. I stood in his role, like, well, what will he say? Because not just to prepare her for an argument, that wasn't it, but just to get her to think about it from a different perspective. And I think that if we can create these kind of cultures in our own personal circles, which starts with us becoming more comfortable with these conversations, we can't expect our friends to talk about stuff we haven't spent time educating ourselves about. Especially one of the things that you keep reinforcing in this conversation is that most of the time, people who are having difficulties with these conversations have not taken an opportunity to get to know themselves. And I'm talking about getting to know themselves sexually. There's a lot of shame around self-touching, a lot of stigma around it. But I'm going to tell you what, sometimes you just got to bust one off, either to go to sleep, get your mind right, and stuff like that. It is a natural biological function that your body wants. For many people, I know there's something.
Look, if you don't know how to please you, how do you expect somebody else to come in? And that's don't do that. Don't put that type of pressure on them. Child, I am good to me, and you should be good to you too.
Right.
And that's what you'll know when someone misses the mark. Like, that's not it.
And you can help them. Now, also be comfortable with your partner, making sure that they understand that, any direction you give is more designed for your pleasure together and not necessarily to be bossy. Because if, at least for me, the reason, unless I call you in advance and tell you that, yeah, this is going to be something I just need to work out and you just need to help me with it. Otherwise, the idea is that we're here for our mutual pleasure. And so I need to know as much what is good for you, and I need to be able to share with you what's good for me. Because if I'm doing something that you don't like, I need to do something else. Even if it's something you liked yesterday, that's like, okay, now it's too tender, need you to move someplace else. Like, that's a real conversation we need to be
Well, you bring up
having.
a very good point in that. Not all sexual encounters have to be for the goal of a long-term relationship. But as long as both parties know that,
Right.
it is okay. Don't have one party being like, oh, he's my boo, we're gonna be together forever, and you just like, or the
I
girl's like,
mean,
this was just because I needed an itch scratch. Thank you so much for scratching that. As long as, and that's also another part of negotiating. It doesn't have to be because you are in a long-term relationship.
yep.
However, studies have shown that more women want to be in a long-term relationship, but because of that schism in number, they settle
Right.
for the right here, right
Situationships.
now, because because there are more of them than there are available men for them.
Mhm.
But with that being said, as long as both people know what this is and what it's also a part of negotiating, and
Right.
if you agree to it, then you agree to it.
But this is also goes back to understanding who you are. Because I've been in situations where people have been comfortable with the way the relationship starts, but then they change. They decide that, yeah, that was cool. Oh, I love this one. Well, let me talk about, I love this one where a friend of mine, when she first met this guy, she was like, oh yeah, grown, he's sexy, we doing this, we doing that. And then like a week later, she's like, I can't believe he didn't call me. We saw each other. It's been like 2 days. And I was like, wait, what happened? She was like, what are you talking about? I was like, no. A week ago, you were Beatrice Badass. You had on the grown up song. Now you have on a pull up. That's not the same thing. Like, you are not Beatrice Badass anymore. You're Polly Pansy. Like, what the hell are you talking about?
Not a pull up.
She went from a song to like, look at this like a hey, I want to go to the party. But it was because, and the thing is, real talk, she had not recognized it. What I think happened is that she had that pre nut itch, and what it real talk, and I'll speak for myself. It changes the way you look. Forget beer goggles. That's you like, oh, you know what? Yeah, I know like you have the third eye on your nose, but God, you seem available. And then it's like, oh, I can't believe I did that. What did I do that for? Da da da. And so all that to say is like, as you are starting to negotiate these spaces, like, what do you tell people to do? Like, how do you even start that kind of conversation?
Say that again. Say that. I missed that last part.
How do you start the conversation? How do you negotiate those types of spaces where you may not have the clearest communication to begin with? Like, there may be people who each person believes something else or wants something else, may have changed.
No, you have to go to them. Now, here's the thing. I
Mhm.
recognize that some women, they will, and let me not just put it on women. It's both sexes.
Yeah,
Um, they're more comfortable dropping their drawers than they are talking. It's
absolutely.
easier to just,
Yes.
to rip the clothes, which is crazy to me. but but it is easier to just let the body do the talking than it is having a conversation. And I say again, the good stuff is in the conversation.
Mhm.
All the good stuff is in the conversation because it will direct what your body will do. But that is also apparently the hard part because you are liable to get your feelings hurt depending on what they say.
Well, the other part of it too is kind of like we talked about pets, because I let everybody know that cat videos have been part of my therapy. And I think one of the reasons that people like cats and pets in general is that you can place any narrative you want on them. They don't talk back, they don't give you any facts. It's like, oh, the reason that she's scratching is that she misses me so much. She's just, no, she doesn't like you. You smell weird. but you get to tell the story. And I think, to your point, letting the bodies do the talking, you can have whatever story you want. But when I start using words, then and don't get me started. We need to have a whole show on the whole actions speak louder than words, because I have used that in negotiations before to get them to believe something, because I knew they were going to try to outfox me. I wrote down that this is what we're going to do, but when you think ahead of me, then I'm not responsible for your decisions.
Well, I'm trying to figure out how to put this.
Yeah, I say a lot of things and
You
ramble
do,
sometimes.
and you do say a lot. You do say a lot. But to the people who need to have that conversation with their partner, because William is a whole other show. William is a whole lay down on the couch and just let him wash over you. Just let William Honolulu just wash over.
Oh, is this going to end up being a show note? I think this is going to end up being a show note.
Make a note, people. But when it comes to having that conversation, please recognize that, I recognize how scary it is to open your mouth and actually answer the question, because there is a chance you may not like the answer. Mm-hmm. And so it is easier for you to just take your moment of sexual pleasure and enjoy it. But when you finish, hopefully you have an orgasm. But when you finish, the question is still there about if this is a situationship or a relationship, and will we do this again? And are you really going to tie me to that cross again? Is that a thing with you? Stuff like that is a valid question. And you may not like the answer you hear, but that's the risk you take for something so extremely personal, and it is a part of the communication. It's part of your responsibility as a sexually responsible adult to have that communication. Or the answer may be just don't have the sex. And therefore, you don't have to have the communication. How's that going to work for you?
Man, oh my God, look at the time. Jeez. Yeah, it's I know amazing people. This has just been so wonderful. I've had a great time. You going to titillate with me next time? Next Tuesday, you going to titillate with me?
Of course I am.
What do you think about you want to talk about self-esteem and shame and sex, being real with yourself? You know what? Let's talk offline and figure out
that's a whole
you know what? We might even we talk offline, but we might even do the how-to guide for orgasm. You can't get more titillating than that, baby.
You are going to get show notes.
Oh my God, so many show notes. Oh my God, it's going to be like a whole freaking essay.
There's so many.
And honestly,
you don't understand being in. I wish we could just get a show of DIS on, because the stories
I don't say nothing else. Let's do that. That'll titillize a whole month of Tuesdays. Come on with it, baby.
And make sure they're former DIS. You don't want to endanger anybody.
No. But and we'll go through the protocols, the trainings, because I used to be a privacy officer, by the way, so we'll HIPAA it all out, make sure it's all nondescript and non-identifiable.
Like I said, people will tell the truth. They'll lie on their mama before they tell the truth about their sex life. And the idea of shame is kind of ingrained, especially depending on the culture that you're in. If you're male or female, if you're LGBTQ or not, there's so many factors to that. Yeah, whole trainings on that. And it is a fantastic conversation to have. I can't wait to have it with you.
Cool in the gang. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, thank you for joining me and my co-host for Titillating Tuesdays, the wonderful, amazing Stacey Dennis. Oh, Stacey, before we go, make sure you shout out your sorors who made the shirt again, because we
Exclusive Touch by Jacqueline Rimmer in Ohio. She made my shirt. She has a whole line of clothing. She's fantastic.
Okay. Make sure that you all like and subscribe. The show is on Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. And Titillating Tuesdays will be titillating you again next week. Yeah, we'll be Black tomorrow.